My sister buried me alive. The first time I realized my own sister hated me, I was standing outside a food pantry in Southside Chicago, clutching a paper bag with expired cereal and canned beans. My phone buzzed. A stranger's message. Is it true you're a liability? Anita says you're lazy and irresponsible. I stared at the screen as my hands shook. Anita, my big sister. The woman who taught me how to braid my hair. The woman whose wedding I cried at. The woman whose husband was now the mayor of a small Illinois city, smiling on billboards like he stood for integrity. She had told people I was a disgrace, that I chased men, that I lived off pity, that my kids were mistakes I refused to learn from. I was a single mother of two, surviving paycheck to paycheck after their father vanished. I worked nights cleaning offices downtown, days delivering groceries, and weekends sewing clothes just to pay rent. Anita knew this. She knew everything. Yet she never helped, never called, never asked if my children had eaten. Instead, she talked. And when people heard her last name, her status, her polished life in Naperville, they believed her. That night, as my kids slept on a mattress on the floor, I cried so quietly I tasted blood. I didn't know then that betrayal would become my fuel. But it did. Anita's gossip spread like wildfire through family groups, church circles, PTA meetings, even city fundraisers. Wherever her voice went, my reputation burned. I found out during a family barbecue in Cleveland, when conversation stopped the moment I walked in. People smiled tightly, eyes full of judgment. One aunt whispered, "You should listen to your sister. She's only trying to help." Help. Anita had painted herself as the responsible savior and me as the cautionary tale. "Don't end up like Sonia," she'd say with a laugh, sipping wine, her diamond ring catching the light. When I confronted her, she smiled calmly. "I was just being honest," she said. "You're too sensitive." Sensitive. That word followed me as landlords rejected me, as a daycare refused my kids, as a job offer disappeared after a background conversation. Meanwhile, Anita thrived. Charity galas in Washington, D.C. Photos with senators. Her kids in private school. Her husband shaking hands like a kingmaker. And me? I learned something powerful during those lonely nights in Detroit, driving Uber while my kids slept in the back seat. People who destroy you quietly are terrified of what you'll become if you survive. So I stopped defending myself. I started listening. And I started planning. I moved to Atlanta, quietly. New city. New air. New anonymity. No family. No explanations. I worked harder than I ever had. Freelancing online at night, studying digital marketing during lunch breaks, pitching ideas to people who didn't know my last name or my past. My kids adjusted. They laughed more. They slept better. And slowly, doors opened. I built something small at first. A local brand helping small businesses rebuild their online reputations. Ironic, isn't it? I understood reputation better than anyone. By year 2, my company had clients in Texas, California, and New York. By year 3, investors started calling. Still, I said nothing to Anita. I watched from afar as her husband announced a re-election campaign. Integrity. Transparency. Family values. I archived everything. Every message. Every voice note. Every screenshot of her cruelty. Not for revenge. For truth. Because the best justice doesn't scream. It waits. The email arrived on a rainy morning in Brooklyn, where I'd flown for a business conference. "We would love for you to keynote our Women in Leadership Summit." National stage. Press coverage. Politicians attending. Including my brother-in-law. Including Anita. I laughed. Deep, slow, victorious. For the first time in years, my hands didn't shake. This wasn't luck. This was alignment. I accepted. Still, I didn't call her. Didn't warn her. Didn't brag. Let fate do the talking. Anita called the night before the summit. Her voice was sweet. Too sweet. "Sonia, I heard you're speaking tomorrow. I'm so proud of you." Proud. After years of poison. She hesitated. then said, "Maybe we should let the past go. Forgive each other." I looked out at the New York skyline, lights glowing like witnesses. "I already did," I said calmly. She sighed in relief. What she didn't know was this: forgiveness doesn't erase truth. And tomorrow, the truth would walk onto the stage. The ballroom in Manhattan was filled with people who smelled like money and confidence. Crystal chandeliers.
Camera Cruz.
Politicians pretending not to sweat. When my name was announced, I walked onto the stage in a tailored navy suit, my hair pulled back, my posture unbreakable. I didn't look for Anita. I didn't need to. I could feel her. I began softly. "I'm a single mother who once slept in her car in Detroit with 2 children in the back seat." Murmurs rippled through the room. I talked about survival, about rebuilding identity, about how reputations can be destroyed without a single punch being thrown. Then I paused. "And sometimes," I said, "the most dangerous enemy isn't a stranger, it's family." The silence was heavy enough to choke on. I finally looked toward the front row. Anita's face had gone pale. This wasn't a speech. It was a mirror. After the keynote, reporters surrounded me. Microphones hovered like vultures hungry for blood. One asked, "Who inspired your journey?" I smiled, not bitter, not angry. Honest. "My sister," I said. "She taught me what betrayal looks like when it wears love's face." The clip went viral within hours. But I didn't expose names. I didn't accuse. I simply told my story. And truth has a way of finding its target. That night, my phone exploded with messages from family, old friends, even people who once avoided me. Anita didn't text.
Her husband's campaign team did.
They wanted a meeting. We met in a glass office overlooking Capitol Hill 2 days later. They were polite. Nervous. "We're concerned about optics," the campaign manager said. "Your story is resonating." I nodded. "Your sister-in-law's narrative conflicts with the image we've built." I leaned back. "I never told anyone to lie," I said calmly. "I just stopped protecting one." They asked what I wanted. I shook my head. "I don't want anything. But integrity, that should want you." They exchanged looks. That's when I knew. The ground was cracking. Anita finally came to see me in Baltimore.
She cried.
Real tears. Or maybe just fear. "I was jealous," she admitted. "You survived things I never could." Then she said the part that sealed everything. "Please don't ruin my family." There it was. Not "I'm sorry for destroying you." Not "I hurt your children." Just panic. I held her hand and said gently, "I'm not doing anything, Anita. I'm just existing honestly." She left knowing something irreversible had begun. Investigative journalists dug deeper. Old messages surfaced.
Group chats.
Emails. Church voice notes where Anita mocked me by name. People began asking questions. And I watched quietly from a hotel room in Los Angeles, my children asleep beside me, safe, proud, unashamed. This wasn't revenge. This was consequence. And the most painful part? I wasn't even finished. I woke up in Santa Monica to the sound of waves and my phone vibrating nonstop. The headline read, "Mayor's family drama raises questions about character and truth." I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, heart steady. This wasn't joy. It was inevitability. Journalists weren't accusing me. They were investigating her. Former friends of Anita began speaking anonymously. Stories aligned. Patterns emerged. How she belittled people beneath her. How she curated perfection while crushing others quietly. And the scariest part? No one needed my voice anymore. The truth had learned to speak without me. That evening, my daughter held my hand tighter as we walked along the pier. "Mom," she said softly, "people online are saying you're brave."
Brave.
I swallowed hard. For years, my children had only seen me tired, afraid,
Apologetic.
Now they saw me respected. That mattered more than any apology. I promised myself then, no matter how this ended, my kids would never grow up believing silence is weakness. Anita tried calling again. This time, I didn't answer. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. She had always controlled the narrative. Controlled rooms. Controlled family perception. But she couldn't control silence that had finally learned to stand tall. She posted a public statement about misunderstandings and private family matters. Comments tore it apart. People don't trust damage control when it smells like fear. Her husband withdrew from public events. Sponsors paused donations. Faith leaders quietly distanced themselves. I watched the news from Phoenix, sipping tea, grounded. This wasn't triumph. It was closure forming. The world doesn't punish lies immediately, but it always collects. A major network reached out. They wanted my story. Fully. Documented. Verified. I looked at my children. Their eyes were steady. Hopeful. I said yes, but on one condition.
No dramatización. No exageración.
Only truth. Because truth doesn't need makeup. And I knew this would be the turning point. The documentary premiered on a quiet Sunday night. I watched it in Seattle. Lights off, my children curled beside me on the couch. No dramatic music. No villain edit. Just facts. Screenshots. Voice notes. Timelines. Witnesses. When my old text messages appeared, me asking for help, me being ignored, I felt my chest tighten. Not from pain this time, but validation. Across the country, phones buzzed. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. By midnight, my name trended nationwide. Not as a victim, as a survivor. The next morning, her husband announced he was stepping back from public office. No scandal screamed my name, but everyone knew why. Anita disappeared from social media, church, fundraisers. The silence she once used against me now swallowed her whole. I didn't celebrate. I breathed. Weeks later, she showed up unannounced at my door in Portland.
No makeup. No jewelry.
Just a woman stripped of her armor. She cried, not elegantly, not performatively. I was cruel, she said. And I taught my children cruelty. That one sentence broke me. This time, I believed her. I forgave her. Not loudly, not publicly, privately. But forgiveness didn't mean restoration. I told her, we can heal separately. She nodded. Some bridges aren't burned. They're retired. I accepted a board position with a national nonprofit supporting single mothers. My children thrived. I moved into a home filled with light and laughter. And for the first time, my story no longer began with her. It ended with me. The letter arrived from Springfield, Illinois, the city where Anita once reigned untouchable. The community center wanted me to speak. Not as a keynote, as an example. The ironies settled slowly. I hadn't returned in years. I stood on that familiar street, memories flooding back, food pantries, whispered judgments, closed doors. This time, the doors were wide open. As I stepped onto the modest stage, I noticed them. Anita's children. Older now, watching carefully. My heart tightened, not with bitterness, but responsibility. I spoke about accountability, about how power should protect, not crush. I didn't mention names. I didn't need to. Truth has a way of recognizing its own. A young girl raised her hand. Miss Sonia, she asked, voice trembling, what do you do when someone who hurt you asks for forgiveness? The room went still. I answered slowly. You forgive them so you can breathe again. But you also honor your scars. Forgiveness is not erasing. It's choosing not to bleed forever. I saw Anita bow her head. That was the moment. Months later, Anita reached out. She had left the spotlight, volunteered quietly, apologized publicly, without excuses. Her children now introduced me as their inspiration. That was the justice. Not humiliation. Transformation. I sit now in San Diego, watching my children chase the sunset. I am no longer the woman my sister tried to erase. I am the woman her lies could not survive. My name is Sonia. And this is the truth they couldn't bury. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos. Thank you.